We look at a project to make sure that if you're putting the money in, that money creates future value for the project from savings or revenue opportunity for the project, which leads to, positive net value or present value. You have to always work with a bankable and reputable EPC that's got experience in the space and is going to be there through the construction of the project. Many times on larger projects, finance will require that the EPC be bondable, or be bonded, or the project have a bond to it to make sure that they can build the project.
We are primarily engineers. That's where we came from. That's what we've been doing for a number of years. A couple of years ago, we really decided that a lot of developers were coming to us with half-baked ideas, and we get partway through engineering, and something would come up that was not really well defined in the feasibility process. And the biggest impact to this that we have seen is that the projects end up being 4 or 5 years instead of 18 months. And these are numbers that really make a huge difference on the viability of a project long term. So we started working into this feasibility piece and providing this as a tool. Our feasibility analysis really builds up a model that includes all of the engineering assets, all the resources into something that has the entire plan built into it. Yeah, value stacking is a term that's being tossed around the industry a lot right now, particularly when you get to batteries and what you're going to do with them. This is an example that has some peak demand, some demand response, and this is stacking a couple of different things. There are 10 to 20 different things you can start leveraging from a battery depending on what's available in your market. This we just have this as a slide showing that it's doing more than one thing, really.
I think most people, do, when they're looking at batteries, they do think in terms of like demand charge management and demand response, but as you know, like in California, if you're under an M3, you've got to be able to size that battery so that you're not exporting that power. But, it's a combination of not exporting the power, being able to do some demand response or peak shaving with that battery, and then plug it into a demand response market. And then, like we were talking earlier, in some markets, we have seen additional revenue streams for batteries in key markets, like New York has their own version of a demand response. There's different grid service programs that are coming out in different utility sectors. And so it's critical for the developer to understand those local incentives or those local programs that are available from the utility from a revenue perspective. If a project costs $100,000 and it's only going to create $100,000 worth of savings, cash on cash perspective, that's not a very good return, especially if it's a 20-year project. You put $100,000 in and you save $100,000 over 20 years. That's probably not a good investment. You could, potentially make that thing pay for itself by utilizing some of the different incentives and tax credits, but you want a project to be able to stand on its own from a cash flow perspective without the incentives.
When we get into our financial modeling of these systems on the feasibility side, often people don't really think much about that balancing act between resiliency and using this as a financial asset. And making those decisions during that financial or that feasibility analysis is an important piece. Is how much capacity are you going to reserve for resiliency versus using in this financial sense for the microgrid itself.